Yo, what is good, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well today. So in this video, I'm going to show y'all how to make a sample for Lil Durk and Polo G. And the sound I went for on this one is going to be kind of that melodic guitar type of sound. And per usual, I'm going to show y'all how to make this sample from scratch. And with all that being said, let's just jump right into the sample. Alright, so for this type of beat, usually the tempos are a little faster. So for this one specifically, for the sample, I chose 155 beats per minute. So going to the first part here, it's just this guitar melody. So I went into Contact to the Evolution Infinity Bank, and I got the Aether Theory preset. So it's like a clean guitar preset. Overall, if you're gonna make realistic sounding guitar melodies, the best way to go is probably Contact, in my opinion. Some other Contact banks that are good for this are the Ilya Efimov banks. Those are pretty good, but I don't have any of those installed right now. So going into the pattern here, for some of y'all who are familiar with pain beats, I'm just using the 1-7-6 progression, and I'll just quickly explain what that is right now. This melody, I put in the MIDI in D sharp minor, so I started with the root note of D sharp. If we're using the D sharp minor scale, I'm gonna move this up to the 7th note here, C sharp, but I don't want it to be a whole octave up for my next root note, so I moved it an octave down. So you could just move this root note down 2 half steps, and then once you have this is the 7th note in the scale, and then to go down to the 6th note in the scale, which is the last one here, you just move it down another 2 half steps. And then using the D sharp minor scale, I just put in a note at every other scale degree right here to make the minor triad for D sharp, and then put the octave. And then I practically did the same thing for these, except for the 6th and the 7th note. These are going to be major chords instead. So to make this manual strum, what I ended up doing is I zoomed in really close, and then I held Alt on my keyboard, and then I just hovered over the note and then left clicked on it and dragged it like this. And that way you're able to shift the note without having to have it snap to the grid as if you were to move it normally like this. And then the top chords, I pretty much just used the D sharp minor scale and just penciled in a kind of catchy melody on top. And so with this, I was pretty much just using the basis of running up the scale and then just having these kind of descends here at the top. And to be honest, I was just thinking of some melodies in my head, and that's just what I came up with on top of the chords that I had. And I only made the first 4 measures, and then I just duplicated it for the remaining half by selecting all this and then hitting Control B. So this is what the guitar melody sounds like before I export it and add effects. Also at the bottom, you might notice that the velocity is randomized and lowered. So I hit Alt R and adjusted this velocity knob and turned off the pattern to randomize the velocity. And then I hit Alt X and use this multiply knob to move the velocity up and down. So once I did that, I routed it to a mixer track, didn't put any effects on it or anything. I armed the mixer by making this red and then hit Alt R, set the mode to pattern, cut remainder, and then hit start. And then I exported it into the playlist here, and there's a reason why I have 2. So what I ended up doing is I copied this one down and then I left clicked on it and hit make unique. For the first one, I just set the mode to stretch and then I panned it all the way to the right. And for the clip I hit make unique on, I put the mode to stretch, and then instead of all the way right, I panned it all the way to the left. So I'm effectively just doubling the sound here, but I'm just putting it 100% onto each side just so it sounds a little fuller. And this is a good way to kind of just add some more depth to the guitars, because usually by themselves, especially when you're making them like in MIDI, if they're not doubled, then they sound plain or bland, even with effects and all that on it. So once I had this, I routed both of those to the same mixer track and I put some effects on it. The first being this EQ, where I put in a low cut and put in all these dips to cut out some of the harsher frequencies. And then I went into Fruity Reverb onto the venue preset. I turned the low cut to about 1100, and then I turned down the dry, turned up the wet, and turned down the decay a little bit. After that, went to RC20 onto the Vinyl 1 preset. I turned off the noise, turned on the wobble, and added a little bit of space to it. And then I opened up Fruity Chorus, just put it on the default setting, and then set the mix level to 19%. And then lastly, I put on Fruity Delay 2 and put the time knob to this setting, and then set the mix level to 16%. So with all the effects, this is what the first stem now sounds like. So after that, I exported this audio clip similar to how I did with the first one by using the mixer track, and I put that into the new arrangement with this consolidated clip right here. And then after that, I added my second lead guitar melody, which is these two clips right here. So for my lead guitar, I went back into Evolution Infinity and I got this tap faster lead preset. I put this in by playing this on my MIDI keyboard, so it sounds a little bit humanized. So this is what the lead guitar sounds like by itself before I put any effects on it. So what I ended up doing is I put it into the mixer track and I put an EQ that cuts off at around 400 hertz. Then I put on Fruity Reverb once again on the venue preset. I turned the low cut up a little more from the last one, and these adjustments are slightly different. And then I opened up Fruity Delay, pretty similar to the last one, just put the time setting here and then the mix level to about 10%. So once I had that, I exported it like I did with all the other clips. Had two clips, one panned all the way to the left, one panned all the way to the right. So with all the effects and the panning and whatnot, this is what the lead guitar sounds like with the first melody. So once I had my two guitar melodies put in, I went into Analog Lab and I got the default E-piano preset. In the MIDI here, I pretty much just had the same chords that I did for the original guitar melody, and then I just took some of these lower notes and copied them up an octave. Next, I went into Keyscape and I got the LA Custom Cinematic preset, and then I put in these lower bass notes here. It's pretty much just the same thing as these top chords, but they're simplified and put down an octave. Next, I went to X-Band and I went to the basses section and I got the next fretless preset. In the MIDI, I pretty much just followed those same root notes that I had for the last couple patterns and just threw in this little accent here. After putting down those two key melodies in the bass guitars, I went into Purity and I got the Same Feel 2 bell preset. And with this, I just wanted to put in like kind of a light accent with some of the other stuff I already have. And then for my last sound, I went into Arcade to the Distant Voices line to the Plateau specific bank, and I just put in a few vocal chops using this. And I just have a few here, and this is what they sound like with some of the other melodies. For effects on those vocal chops, I put on a low cut, and then I put to Fruity Love Filter onto the low pass 2 preset, and I put this parameter down here. So once I had all those finalized, I exported them as audio clips and put them into the playlist here. I just added this accent at the bottom. It's kind of like a dark accent, but I ended up turning it down quite a bit, so it's just kind of like an extra layer. And then I just put in this transition sound and just turned down the pitch and the volume by quite a bit. And yeah, once I had all that, I just arranged all of the stems and rendered out the final loop. So then I imported the loop into a new FLP and I just put some basic drums on it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it's pretty straightforward in terms of the overall drum sounds and all that. I set the project tempo to 155 and then hit stretch, and then I upped the tempo to 162 beats per minute. So I started off with a slap clap, and I just put it on the third beat of every measure, so pretty standard trap clap pattern. Then I opened up this hit one hi-hat and just put in this two-step bass pattern and just put in a few of these rolls here using the 1/3 step snap to grid. So after putting in the clap and hi-hat, I put in my snare sound. I put in this fairly straightforward snares. After putting in the snare, I put in this open hat sound. And then I just put this on the 4th beat on the 1st and 5th measures, and then the 2nd beat on the 4th and 8th measures. Lastly, I put in my 808, and this pretty much just follows the same notes from the bass guitar and the sample, just with slightly different chopping. I just threw in like a 5th here with the C sharp. So that's gonna do it for me. Hope y'all enjoyed it and found it pretty helpful. Thank you for sticking all the way to the end if you did. Leave any thoughts, recommendations, or feedback for me in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.